AFEX Commodities Market. Today, we will be looking at innovative financing options for productive youth engagement in agribusiness. The theme for this year's International Youth Day recognizes the importance of youths to the growing food systems across the world. A big question in Nigeria remains on how to activate increased youth participation in agribusiness. Michael Martins, Portfolio Manager at AFEX, will be talking to us about this. But first, let's get an overview of trading activities in the week that ended August 2nd. Hey, Michael, what do we have there? Good morning.
Hi, Chimezie. Good morning. Thank you for having me once again. It's always lovely to be here. So just to take a quick overview of what happened in the commodities market over the past 1 week. If you look at the table in front of you, the total value of transactions traded on the exchange fell by 81.07% from 2.06 billion to close the trading week at 0.39 billion. The total number of contracts traded on the exchange also fell by 85.05% from around 126,000 contracts to close the trading week at just under 19,000 contracts. With the number of deals traded on the exchange, we saw a slight increase of 11.11% from 18 deals to 20 deals. The AFEX Commodities Index, which is the ACI, also fell by 5.62% from 481.75 points to close the trading week at 454.70 points. The AFEX Export Index also fell slightly by 0.21% from 173.71 points to close the trading week at 173.33 points. With regards to the volume of contracts traded on the exchange in the week under consideration, there was a general decline across board, with maize being the major culprit, falling from 125,000 contracts last week to close this trading week at just over 15,500 contracts. There was a general decrease across board with all the other commodities. With regards to price changes on the exchange, we generally saw red across board, with the biggest changes happening with sorghum falling by 23.81% to close the trading week at 20,340 naira per contract. And then second, we have maize, which fell by 4.92% to close the trading week at 22,000 naira per contract. Third, we have soybean, which fell by 3.32% to close the trading week at 34,983 naira per contract. And last, with regards to price changes for commodities, we have ginger, which fell by 1.07% to close the trading week at 126,000 naira per contract. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have the fair trade exchange traded commodity, which fell by 4.90%, losing 797 naira in the contract value to close the trading week at 15,400 naira per contract. And as always, if you want to know more about the commodities market, you can always go to our website, which is www.afexnigeria.com. And if you also want to get started trading commodities, whether or not that's fixed income contracts or spot contracts or even exchange traded contracts for that matter, you can always download our app, which is available on iOS and Android.
All right, Michael, thank you for that. We see that most of the commodities ended the week in the red, except for cocoa and sesame that closed flat. What does this price drop mean for the farmers and the buyers?
So you have to imagine that the commodity season is, largely drawn to a close. I mean, we are at the tail end of the commodity season. So a significant portion of these transactions are essentially being done by people who still have a bit of leftover inventory that they're trying to sell off before the start of the new commodity season. So I wouldn't say that there's any sort of significant effect for farmers, because it is the case that a lot of the farmers would have sold off a significant portion of if not all of their volume within the first 3 or 4 months of the commodity season. Most traders would also have exited their positions in the market before this time. So I would say that there isn't that much of a significant effect on farmers and on our traders in the commodities market.
Now, how to create access to innovative financing options for young agripreneurs that can transform the food system remains important. First, how can we make agribusiness more attractive to youths and incentivize them to participate in it?
Thank you very much, Chimezia, for that question. And I think it's a very important question too, because we do need a lot more young people involved in the agricultural ecosystem. But there's a big fundamental issue, and it's a big issue of perspective, right? So the first thing we need to do is, first of all, expand the definition of what it means to be an agripreneur or to be an agricultural entrepreneur, right? If I were to ask you, Chimezia or Ladi, the first thing that would come to your mind if I mentioned the word agriculture, you would probably think in terms of the traditional cultivation or in terms of the traditional farming, right? That's not particularly wrong, but it's largely incomplete, right? Because the agricultural ecosystem is much larger than that, right? And there are a lot of other areas that by which where youths could essentially be playing, right? And this area is essentially cut across, from insurance, even to commodities trading, even to research and development, and then also maybe even data science, right? So the entire commodities ecosystem, right, is much larger than what it is often traditionally defined as. I mean, look at for somebody like me as an example. I've been in the agricultural space for the better part of a year and a half, and I don't have a hoe, I don't have a cutlass, and I don't have a farm. I mean, that says a lot, right? So it does say that a lot more youths could be involved, in the agricultural space if indeed they knew that the agricultural space was much broader and much larger than just the traditional idea of going to the farm with your hoe and cutlass and then cultivating a certain number of crops for a given period of time. So I think that's the major, the fundamental issue that we need to address.
Okay, but what are the various opportunities along the agribusiness value chain that young people can actually leverage on?
So when you think about the commodities value chain, there are a couple of pain points that you can essentially talk about. So with regards to pre-production, the major activity that youth could essentially get involved with would essentially be, research and development, and that's with regards to us finding improved seedlings and then getting better seedlings so that we can essentially increase the productivity of the average smallholder farmer, right? And it is also the case that when you get youth involved in research and development, they can come up with a differentiated way of cultivating, and then also finding, of course, improved seedlings, and then also for fertilizers. With regards to production, there are a lot of innovation that youth could essentially bring into play, right? So think about something that is currently being done in first world countries in terms of urban farming, where it's not uncommon for you to find people growing crops on top of their houses in Ikoyi or Lekki. I mean, it wouldn't be completely out of the question. So it is the case that if youth were to get involved in that particular value chain, they would also be bringing their knowledge about the best agronomy practice into play. They could also help improve cultivation and then productivity in regards to mechanization, and then maybe even also creating our own machines and equipment, right? So with regards to storage, so we currently have the brick and mortar system, which is sort of run by most storage facilities. But it is the case that when youth get involved, we can begin to think of innovative alternatives, to just storage, and then maybe we can even essentially start transporting goods directly from farm to where they're essentially needed. So with regards to commodities trading itself, which is essentially something that happens post-harvest and storage, so youth could essentially go into trading either the physical commodity in the open market themselves, or either even trading the financial market products that we essentially have on the exchange or other platforms, to sort of take advantage of trading commodities, because as we have said over the course of this show many times, commodity prices tend to move significantly over the course of an entire commodity season. With the last part of the value chains, which would essentially be logistics and delivery, a lot of the youth could partake in export trade. They could also partake in international shipping, and then setting up their own transport and logistics agencies and whatnot. So those are essentially by and large different areas where youth can essentially play across the agricultural value chain.
Now, what are the financing options available to young agripreneurs to scale?
So with agricultural entrepreneurs, and with essentially financing, there's one thing that sort of is concupiscent with financing, and that's essentially risk, right? So when it comes to financing small and medium-scale entrepreneurs, or even large-scale entrepreneurs for that matter, the first thing for us to do would essentially be for us to de-risk investing in agriculture. And of course, for the agripreneur, the first thing would be for you to actually start, because if you don't start, then you don't have an historical, you don't have a past to scale, you can't show people that you essentially can't do what you claim to be able to do. With regards to financing too, it's also important for them to be able to get startup capital. And when it comes to startup capital, you're essentially going to get money from 3 different people, and those are your friends, your families, and maybe even your foes, right? Those are essentially the people that will give you money at the outset in order to start your business. And when your company or when your business does grow to a certain extent, then you can then start looking for other alternative financing in terms of venture capital that is available to small and medium scale entrepreneurs. You can also take advantage of the fact that there are private companies who are also looking to fund small and medium scale entrepreneurs. We currently at AFEX Commodities Exchange have the ASP, the Agri Service Provider Program, where we sort of provide small and medium scale young entrepreneurs, right, with inputs to sort of replicate the things that we do in our own MP financing program with their own smallholder farmers. So so when you think about all of that, for the average smallholder farmer who is young, who is looking to take part in the agricultural space, I think it's important to know that there are a lot of financing options that are available to you at the moment.
But is AFEX providing any platform for such financing?
So in terms of platform, the ASP program would be our primary platform for actually empowering young entrepreneurs. And what we essentially do is similar to what we do in our MP financing program, where we essentially extend loans, right, to smallholder farmers at the beginning of cultivation, so that they can essentially plant with improved quality seeds, and they can also plant with improved fertilizers. So what we do with our ASP program is that instead of us having to interface with like 1,000 different smallholder farmers, we essentially extend these loans to agripreneurs, which in this case would be the young agripreneur. We essentially extend that loan to him, and he then replicates the same activities and services with his own smallholder farmers. So those are essentially the financing options that are available to small and medium scale entrepreneurs at AFEX Commodities Exchange.
All right, Michael, we'll have to leave it there. Michael, thank you so much. I will take a moment now. Business Morning continues in a moment.